Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host for today, Fahim Bangush. And well, today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. Three topics that we're going to be discussing today, of course. The first one being the Djokovic controversy, which has been going on since a couple of days now. And bad news for Djokovic. We know that his visa has been refused once again. This is twice that the visa has been refused. And now, what holds in store for him in the future? The time is to tell, and we are to discuss it with our panel members as well. Now, he's also unvaccinated, we know that, and he is in a state of limbo. Now, second topic that we will be discussing is about the Carabao Cup. Of course, Chelsea has cruised to the final, and Chelsea have shoved Spurs aside, and Arsenal hold Liverpool to a draw. We shall be talking about their performances as well. And last but not least, we are going to be talking about cricket. Now, India versus South African Test Series, which is underway. And today we saw a dismal performance by the Indian side, where South Africa beat the Indian side in the third test. And they have clinched the three-match series 2-1. And also the fact that Keegan Peterson has been declared player of the series. Now, viewers, coming back and talking about Novak Djokovic. Of course, this controversy has been going on since quite a while. And to talk about this, we have with us in our studio Mr. Mehboob Khan. He happens to be a tennis expert and coach. Mr. Khan, welcome to BTV World, sir.
Thank you very much.
And also on the Skype, we will be having Mr. Syed Ali Abbas Shiraji, international legal expert. Now, Sir, Mr. Khan, but first of all, before we talk to you, we have a report that has been prepared as far as the Djokovic controversy is concerned. Let's take a look at that, and we will be back and we will talk to our guests.
Australia's government cancelled Novak Djokovic's visa for a second time as it sought to deport the tennis superstar after he arrived in the country without a COVID-19 vaccine. The megastar, being a vaccine skeptic, flew into Melbourne Airport on January 5th, claiming a vaccine exemption because of a positive PCR test result on December 16th. His announcement regarding travelling to Melbourne for the Australia Open with a medical exemption fueled widespread anger in Australia. Djokovic also admitted his false statement on Australia travel document and that he had participated in an interview and a photo shoot even after testing positive for the coronavirus, in an apparent violation of rules in his native Serbia. This act was also condemned by the Serbian Premier. Immigration Minister Alex Hawke used discretionary powers to again cancel Djokovic's visa after a court quashed an earlier revocation and released him from immigration detention. He mentioned that Prime Minister Scott Morrison's government is firmly committed to protecting Australia's borders, particularly in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tournament's top seed, Djokovic, had been practicing on the Melbourne Park courts a few hours earlier from the decision. The cancellation effectively means Djokovic would be barred from a new Australian visa for 3 years, except under certain circumstances. The visa decision brought in danger Serbian world number one's dream of a 10th Australian Open title and a record 21st Grand Slam.
So that was a gist, that in a nutshell, that's what we were telling you about the Djokovic controversy. Of course, you people have been following the news as well. It has been all over the news, both on national and international media, what has been going on. Now, Mr. Mehboob Khan, my first question would be to you, sir. A, he was unvaccinated when he came to Australian Open, and B, the visa was first cancelled. Now it's for the second time the visa has been cancelled. What does it say about his future career? Because this was supposed to be really, really big for Djokovic.
Well, coming back to the vaccination, I mean, the basic theme is that you have every right not to be vaccinated, but you do not have the right to transmit any disease to others.
Absolutely.
So that was the thing, and because all the other participants, the players, remember there are top players, eligible players from all over the world who are participating in the first Grand Slam of the year, which is Australian Open. And the men's draw is 128. They're all top players, basically, from all over the world. And for one player who is not vaccinated, basically that's sending like fear mongering to other players who might be, think that if we play with him or if we are his vicinity, we might get infected.
True.
So that's the basic premise in this situation. That's why the immigration minister has, should I say, recancelled the visa on health and good order grounds, in the interest of the public. And as far as his career is concerned, it all depends what kind of other legal actions, if any, will be taken against him. If there's no legal action taken against him, so nothing will happen. He will not participate in the Australian Open. But as far as his participation in other tournaments, so I'm afraid that a bar has been set that until and unless he is fully vaccinated, he won't be able to participate in other tournaments.
In other countries as well, yes. Yeah. True. And also we have on the telephone line Syed Ali Abbas Shirazi. He's an international legal expert. Mr. Shirazi, can you hear me? Right. Getting in touch with Mr. Syed Ali Abbas Shirazi. Mr. Shirazi, can you hear me? Right, there seems to be an issue with us contacting Syed Ali Abbas Shirazi. He's an international legal expert, of course, so you would like to know the legal aspects of this happening, this very interesting happening which has happened in Australia. Obviously, sir, like we also know that the Australian nation, especially people in Melbourne, they've suffered a lot. More than 260 days they've been under strict lockdown. I don't think that they would like any person coming and infecting them, because I think the Australian government is trying its best to have a zero infection rate in Australia. Exactly.
Not only that, I saw some videos in which the Australian police have been basically arresting those who are not vaccinated. So obviously, the outrage of the public is, very well understood.
Yes.
That look, if we are not exempt, why are you exempting a person he's world number one, and he may have won the Australian Open 9 times, but still he is a human being.
True.
And he can, if he is not vaccinated enough, like two vaccinations, full vaccination, so there's a likelihood that he might infect the others.
That's true. Now, on the telephone line, we have Syed Ali Abbas Shirazi with us to talk more about this on the legal aspects of this controversy. Mr. Shirazi, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Mangesh, we can hear you.
Welcome to our show, sir. Now, being an international legal expert and knowing the fact that this is the second time the visa has been cancelled, and we also know that Mr. Djokovic does hold the right to appeal according to his lawyers. What's your take on that?
Look, Mr. Mangesh, now the matter is not in tennis court, but in court of law.
Right.
That is second time the visa is cancelled. And this time, Immigration Minister, Mr. Haq, cancelled the visa under Section 133C, Australian Migration Act. And that is very specific. That automatically creates bar of 3 years. And if the penalty is such kind of, and when there is allegation of travel documents and declaration errors, matter become much vast. Although there is a right of appeal, but that is a judicial review, and vast discretion lies with the exec. So I don't think so that there is any kind of relief for Mr. Djokovic, because due to error and lies in his travel document and declaration, now the case is on very poor footing.
You're right, because before coming, I think it was in December that he had contracted COVID. He was positive, and he also went for a photo shoot along with when he was positive. So naturally, people are under a lot of threat, especially in a country like Australia, where Melbourne was the hub of COVID-19. Don't you think so?
Yeah. He not only skipped basic details, but literally he confessed about all these, that they have a mistake, the and not declare the proper information to concerned authorities, and that make the case more worst. And now under judicial review, although the right of appeal is available and his legal team is going to file the appeal, but I don't think so that there is a positive scope of any kind of relief, because he himself confessed that there is a wrong declaration on his part. And if same things goes on, I am pretty sure and legally he's not been playing in this tournament.
So do you think a wrong declaration, was that something that Australian government can file a suit against as well? Is that another point?
Look, Prakash, on 6th January, when the visa was cancelled and immediately court granted the relief to Djokovic, the basic ground was that there was procedural fairness, and relief was extended to Djokovic on the ground that there was no procedural fairness. But when there is a question of lack of transparency on the part of Djokovic, then no other way and no other option before court that court take a strict action on this. So legally, he has a very poor case to play this tournament.
Right, Mr. Shirazi, please stay online with us now. Mr. Mehboob Khan, of course, we know that all this mess has been created in Australia now. What sort of a precedent is being set for all the players of tennis all over the world?
Well, almost all the players are vaccinated. They have allowed only those players who are fully vaccinated, they can participate. And for Novak Djokovic, insistence that, you know, I'm not vaccinated and I'm because world #1 and 9 Australian Open titles, so I should be exempt, or maybe there might be, I don't know, what are the other grounds. So I think it's a very
exactly
bad,
what the government said, that you have not been able to give us enough evidence that you should be exempt.
So it's a bad precedent. And other thing is, which I think we have not examined, the tennis technical issues. Now he's like for more than a week, he is like fighting this battle, and he's not practicing. You see, he's not practicing. And even if he wins the legal battle, he won't be able to win the technical battle on the court, because even if you miss one practice session.
That was going to be my next question, yes.
As a coach, I can tell you
Being a
at
coach,
this level,
exactly.
even if you miss one practice session, you are just behind other players. So I think this will hurt him.
Is that so important?
Even more. Even if they somehow allow him to participate, he will do very, very bad on the tennis
Perhaps
court.
not win, and perhaps his reputation will be tarnished.
Exactly.
Being a good and excellent tennis player.
Exactly.
So even one day is that important.
Very important. The practice session, you know, is very, because we do this all the time, and sometimes if you miss one practice session, another person who's your opponent is like he's doing all his practice sessions on time and duration wise and everything. So obviously that person, when it's a 30-all, when it's 30-all, that person who has not missed any practice session will have advantage.
Correct, because exactly what he said, and all the Serbian people said that we are with you, although they supported him a lot in this regard. Even his mother filed a suit against the government. He is being tortured in the detention center. But then again, as you said, that even if he is out and has missed days of practice, because he did miss 3 days of practice, unless the judge gave him the quashment letter that he can play in the Australian Open. But you're right, being a coach yourself, you know the legalities, not the legalities, I mean the technicalities of the sport itself, and definitely it will not do a lot, I mean very well for his overall career if he plays in this tournament.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Shirazi, obviously, like Mehboob Khan Sahab said, that even if he wins the legal battle, the technical battle will not be won. Quite an important statement here. But then, according to you, even the legal battle would not be won, as his case is very, very weak. Also, we know that if a suit was filed from his mother that he is being tortured in the detention center, as now he's being sent back to the detention center. Of course, they said that Friday evening he can stay where he's staying right now, but he will have to move to the detention center. What do you say about that?
Bangesh, look, whenever there is any kind of penalty, we firstly observe that under what clause he's penalized. He's
Right.
penalized under Section 133C of Australian Immigration Act. And that is very dangerous for a player who has such kind of reputation like Djokovic. There is automatically ban of entering in Australia for 3 years. And if something happened like this, he's in deep trouble. And literally, courts are closed. Tomorrow is no working day, no court day. Day tomorrow, there is a no court day. So, he can immediately deported from Australia, though his legal team is working. But court hearing is not available for him. And last time he get the relief on procedural fairness, case is not on same footing. And if the case is on the footing which the media is reported and which the facts is, then in fact he has no case to stay in Australia.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you very much, Shirazit Saab, for being with us, for giving us your time and insight, legal insight into the matter. Of course, we needed to know all these things. Thank you very much. Mehboob Saab, we heard what Shirazit Saab was talking about. What are your comments on those?
Well, I mean, I just agree with him, and I'm more concerned about his reputation as a Grand Slam champion, as world number one, that this legal battle is not going to augur well on the tennis court. He has missed already so many practice sessions, and his opponents, you know, who are playing the first draw or the first round, the second round, the third round, they are practicing, and you have to practice on the venue courts, because you know the venue courts are different from the other courts. Even if you are at Australian Open, probably the court number 10 plays different than court number 1.
I see.
Even at the same. So it's very important for a player like Djokovic, who is world number 1, to practice at the same venue. So as far as I'm concerned, as a coach, I think he will be better advised if he just abandon all these things and just say sorry and get vaccinated and try to play other tournaments.
That's true. Mehboob Saab, thank you very much for your time and your insight, for joining us, for being a part of our program.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed with you, and it's a good program, and good luck. You know, I've been involved with PTV for so many years as a commentator, and yes, thank you very much, sir.
Sir, always welcome. Well, of course, that tells us something, that no matter how big a player you are, one has to follow the rules, and I think the Australian government has set quite a good precedent that no matter who you are not above the law. Now we'll move forward to our next segment, but a short break. Welcome back. My name is Fahim Bangish. You're watching Sports Extra. Now, before we move on to our next segment, we have a little report prepared by our researchers. Let's take a look at that.
Liverpool were held to a goalless draw with 10-men Arsenal in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. Granit Xhaka was sent off for Arsenal at Anfield after less than half an hour, but a Liverpool team without top scorer Salah, Sadio Mane or Naby Keita were unable to take full advantage. The Reds boss has called upon the players to respond at the Emirates next Thursday when they are entertained by the Gunners, with a place in the final up for grabs against Chelsea, who eased into the final as they closed out a comfortable semi-final win over Tottenham. Spurs never seriously threatened to overturn Chelsea's 2-goal first leg advantage, and Antonio Rudiger's bundled finish from Mason Mount's corner after 18 minutes. It was a night of frustration for Spurs and their former Chelsea manager Antonio Conte, as they saw 2 penalties correctly overturned by VAR. Harry Kane also saw a goal ruled out for offside. Chelsea always looked in control, and once they had extended their aggregate lead early on, the defending European champions now look forward to a Wembley date with either Arsenal or Liverpool.
All right, so the Carabao Cup and the semi-finals are underway, and we saw a brilliant play by Chelsea, which played against Tottenham, and we saw 2-0 in the first leg, and then we saw 1-0 in the second. And now the total aggregate is Chelsea has won by 3-0 the semi-finals. And as far as the second semi-final is concerned, Liverpool 0-0 against Arsenal. It was a goalless first leg, and the second leg is to be played. To talk about this, we have online with us Sabeel Sachel-Hazer, sports analyst. He will be not in the studios, but of course on the Zoom link. Sabeel, welcome.
Sabeel, are you there with us? Thank you very much for having me. Apologies, I can't be in the studio with you.
So, Sabeel, we know the Carabao Cup semi-finals are underway. The two legs have been played as far as Chelsea and Tottenham are concerned, whereas as far as Liverpool and Arsenal are concerned, the second leg is to be played now. So far, what are your comments on the performance of all the four teams?
Well, I think Chelsea have by far been the most, if you at least look at the semi-finals, Chelsea have been the better of the four teams. They were very, very dominant in their first win over Spurs when they won 2-0. So that was perhaps the best semi-final performance so far. And then the second leg, they got a 1-0 result. After they got the goal, they kind of stepped off the gas because there was really no need to press any further, because by that point, the game was done and dusted at 3-0. There were some controversies in that game, which I'm sure we'll discuss. But in terms of just overall performance, Chelsea were the better team. Now, when you look at Liverpool-Arsenal, I think Liverpool should really be... Arsenal should hold their heads up high, and Liverpool should really be embarrassed after that 0-0 draw, because Arsenal were playing with 10 men thanks to an absolutely ridiculous challenge by Granit Xhaka, which got himself sent off. I think he should be very embarrassed that he's a very senior player and he keeps finding himself in situations like this where he is getting red cards in completely ridiculous situations. But they've instantly changed tactics. Credit to Arteta and the managerial staff for putting on Suarez, taking Suarez off, Cedric Suarez off, bringing on Holding and Chambers, and taking Nketiah off and readjusting the formation. But Liverpool, it doesn't matter if you don't have your two top scorers. The amount of attacking talent they have, and the fact that Arsenal were down to 10 men, and they were down to 10 men for at least 60 minutes, you definitely should have punished them and taken advantage.
Now, of course, Sabeel, like we have been watching the match. So, what do you think? What are your expectations as in Liverpool or Arsenal towards the final? Who are you expecting to go there?
Well, anybody would, I think, say if Liverpool, based on the fact that Liverpool are a better overall team, but the way they performed yesterday and the way Arsenal did, based on that, you say, well, with 11 men, Arsenal are actually, if they perform the way they did in the first semi-final and they have 11 men are unable to get forward and attack, they'd be much, much better off. So I think based on just the quality of teams, you'd say Liverpool. Based on that performance, I would say Arsenal.
You would say Arsenal, and if we compare them with Chelsea, what do you say? But when? What would you say then when we compare Arsenal with Chelsea? Which do you think is the better team out of those?
I think definitely Chelsea is the best team out of the four of them in terms of performances, in terms of the squad they have available at the moment. Because Liverpool obviously have Salah and Mane away to the AFCON. So they are losing. They have lost their two best goal scorers. And Naby Keita as well, obviously another individual who they don't have available at the moment. But in terms of Chelsea, they've got Lukaku, Werner. They've obviously Werner's not as good as Lukaku, but they have attacking threats and they have all of their attacking threats available. Their players are coming back from midfield injury. The midfielders who are injured are coming back as well. So I definitely think Chelsea are by far the best shout to win this cup. But again, it just depends on a final. Teams often don't play their regular way. They adjust their strategies a little bit. And that sometimes actually costs the better teams because they don't play as freely as they would in the non-final.
So, Sachel, you have declared Chelsea as the best team. Is that your personal verdict, or are you talking about the technical grounds as well?
Well, I think it's. I'm not a fan of any. I'm not a fan of any of these teams. So when I say it, I'm talking about the way they perform. Now, when you look at Arsenal play, again, I'll talk about the adjustments they made against Liverpool. I think Arteta has really, really got his tactics down in the last couple of months, especially. He started a bit rocky this season, but he's really come around. In fact, if you look at the game against Liverpool, he was having an argument almost with Steve Brown, one of his assistant coaches, when he wanted to make the defensive substitutions. But in terms of the way they play, Chelsea are far better at penetrating the back four. They play much better in half spaces than Arsenal. And they have a good combination of experience and youth. Whereas Arsenal are really, really relying on a lot of very good, very brave and technical young players, but they do not have the same stability that Chelsea do. And then obviously Liverpool, like I said, are missing their best players. So if they get to the final, even that remains to be seen. And Spurs are now out, so there's no real point in talking about them. But realistically, Spurs are always a team that kind of bottle it under pressure, so they wouldn't have put up much of a fight in the final.
Well, such a time will tell when we watch the final, because right now, even the second semi-final, the second leg of the second semi-final is left. We have yet to see. Who knows? We might get a total upset. We might get a totally different result from what we're speculating right now. Don't you think so?
Well, yeah, obviously you can. This is just us basing. Also, we're analyzing the situation to the best of our knowledge. We're making a prediction, but in a final, anything can happen. The good thing is that they're all top quality sides who have, especially in local finals. When I say local, I mean like English League Cup finals and such. They do play more attacking football than, say, last season when Chelsea and City got to the Champions League final, or a couple of seasons ago when there was Liverpool and Spurs in a Champions League final. In European finals, teams do not take risks as such. In recent years. They play a little bit more within themselves, and it makes the final quite boring. So at least the one thing is, even if it's not what we expect, you should, in the League Cup final, be expecting exciting football, because teams are a bit more expressive. But if I can just touch on Chelsea's game with Spurs, I mentioned the controversies. A big thing is now with VAR and technology. These kind of things also decide games. And while in the semi-final in Chelsea-Spurs, I think they got the decision absolutely right, and they used the technology perfectly to get the right decision. I really, really hope that in the final we don't see too much of that, because it can kind of it can take away from what otherwise is a very momentous occasion.
That's true. That's true, Sachil. Thank you very much. It was indeed an honor speaking to you about football. Naturally, of course, since you happen to be an expert as far as football is concerned, as far as sports are concerned, it was a tremendous pleasure, and I hope you get well soon, since we know that you happen to be a tad unwell, a tad under the weather. We hope you get well soon. Now, before we move on to our third segment, that would be the cricket, we would take a short break, and we will be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Sports Extra with Fahim Bangush, and our third segment today is about cricket. This is the South Africa versus India Test series that we are talking about. Before we move on to discussion, we have a little package prepared by our research team. Let's take a look at that.
I have to reset.
South Africa beat India by 7 wickets in the third and final test at Cape Town to clinch 3-match series 2-1. With an easy target of 212 to chase, South Africa began the fourth day at 101 for 2 after captain Dean Elgar and Keegan Peterson put on a 78-run stand.
That will be 4.
Shot. Oh, that's beautiful. Such quick feet.
But Elgar was out with what proved to be the last ball of the day, with a strangle down the leg side as he edged seamer Jasprit Bumrah to wicketkeeper Rishabh Pant.
Roll that through. Just go backward.
There you go. There you go. There's the decision they were on.
India was earlier furious when Elgar earned a reprieve from the ball tracking technology when on 22.
Yep, just roll that through. I'm satisfied there's no bat involved. Pitching in line. impact in line and wickets missing.
How big will this moment be? Well, that
India batted first and made 223. South Africa replied with a 210 and India made 198 in its second innings.
It's gone straight up in the air. Temba Bavuma takes the catch.
Resuming the day 101 for 2, South Africa got the job done in 63.3 overs with major contributions coming from Keegan Peterson, Rassie van der Dussen and Temba Bavuma. Peterson was the only one dismissed on the day as he played one on to his stumps for Shardul Thakur.
for India. Keegan Peterson has
Gonna have to
Now, that was a package prepared by our research team. Now, to talk about this, we have K. Asif Ahmed, cricket commentator, with us on the telephone line. Mr. Ahmed, welcome to BTV World.
Thank you very much, dear.
So, we saw this test series happening. We saw a very dismal performance by India. First of all, your comments on Indian performance?
Well, to be very honest, that India is struggling, especially in South Africa. And if you talk about the second test and third test, and I've been criticizing on their batting for long, because if you talk about the Ajinkya Rahane and Pujara, both of the players, they're not able to perform up to the mark, though they're scoring like 40s and 50s, but not finishing the game. And same with the Virat Kohli, you know. If you talk about the Virat Kohli's class, he's the world-class batter so far, and but he's struggling in red ball cricket. And not only, and that's why he's showing in some frustration as well. What happened there, everyone knows that what happened, the DRS system. They're not criticizing even in South Africa, but before that, Kohli's criticizing India as well. This is the problem with India. If you are winning, everything is fine. If you're losing, then you will talking about the system. And the entire world is supporting this DRS system and the technology. But the India now, and what Virat Kohli said, it has nothing to do with his sportsman spirit. He must learn something from Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the former Indian captain. The way he led his team, the way he showed his class anywhere, off the field, on the field, off the camera, on the camera. So I think the way they lost their series, now they're starting criticizing the system as well. The point is that why Indian team is not playing well. The point is that why their spinners are not performing well. And the question should ask to the Bimra as well. The question should ask to the captain that why they have chosen this team and what they had done in the past. So I think South Africa played remarkably. If you talk about Rabada, you talk about their batting, you talk about Markram, Peterson, Bavuma, and even Keshav Maharaj. So everything was fine with the South Africa, and India was under pressure, and that's why they lost.
Now, of course, Ahmed Saab, we know that a very important point here that comes to the mind is many of the players in the South African team were new. I mean, they weren't as seasoned players as they had in the Indian team, but even then, they had their nerve intact and they played brilliantly against the Indian side. And also, do you think they had the advantage of being on the home ground? Perhaps this is why they had so much confidence, or perhaps maybe they were really comfortable on the pitch?
Yeah, you're right that everyone, I mean, anywhere if you're playing at your home place, it supports you, the home crowd supports you. But even, you know, that the Indians are the second member of the test team that they played final against New Zealand in World Test Championships final. But if you talk about that, what's wrong with the India? Look, Jasprit Bumrah is a world-class bowler. In second innings, typically bowled 17 overs, conceded 54 runs, only one wicket. And everyone was talking about Ravichandran Ashwin, who was a top-notch spin bowler for the India. He bowled 11 overs, 51 for none. So I think that when you see their performances, when you talk about some of the journalists, the Indian journalists, they're talking about that something is going fishy inside the Indian dressing room. So I think that though South Africa was playing and getting, some advantage of their home conditions, but yes, I must give 100% marks to the South Africa the way they played.
That's true. Thank you very much, K. Asif Ahmed Saab. Thank you very much for being here, for your time and giving us your insight. As far as South Africa versus India Test Series is concerned, well, that's all we have time for today. And thank you so much for being with us, for joining us in Sports Extra. Of course, we wish Mr. Djokovic all the best as far as whatever he's going through. And of course, we wish the teams in the Carabao Cup the best of luck, because obviously we have yet to see what happens in the semi-final and who comes to the final, and then we have yet to see. And as we say always, it may the best team win. And as far as South Africa versus Indian Test Series is concerned, well, I would say I don't think it's a very good idea to be bashing your own team. Maybe they were having a difficult time, maybe they were not very comfortable on the pitch of South Africa, and obviously the home ground advantage was always there for South African team, but we must give it to South Africa because they performed brilliantly and keeping their nerve intact and keeping their confidence intact, and even the captaincy, the bowling, everything by the South African side was brilliant. Well, that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us. Keep watching PTV World. It's goodbye from Fahim Bangush.